Great Debaters Contest is brought to you by Safaricom M-Pesa.
The Great Debaters Contest has set out on a voyage all the way to sunny Kisumu to bring you the very best of debate. Welcome to the show. I am Mariam Bishar.
And I am Austin Yumbok. We have the Great City of Hope versus Maranda High. And their motion is, a cashless economy is the best stimulus to economic growth. Who will be the victor?
We'll have the first proposer take the stage. You have 3 minutes.
A cashless economy is the best stimulus for economic growth. That's our motion today. Now, since the inception of humanity, various forms of payment methods have been used. To start us off, we had the barter trade system, where goods were exchanged for other goods to make a transaction complete. The barter trade system formed a strong foundation for the introduction of a money economy, where it helped us to sort out problems such as divisibility and double coincidence. However, the money economy itself has its own challenges and disadvantages. But we can also replace it. We can still replace it. We can replace it with a cashless economy. Now, what is a cashless economy? A cashless economy is one that translates the use of plastic currency that is aided by an automated system to make a transaction complete. That's what a cashless economy is. And economic growth is the increase in the productivity of a country that is measured by the rise of the national income over a given period of time. That's what economic growth is. And then stimuli. What is stimuli? It's something that helps somebody or something to develop or better more quickly. That's what a stimulus growth is. Now that we all know about the motion, we have forms of cashless transactions that are usually taking place as of now. We have the use of debit cards, the credit cards, mobile money transfers, and so on and so forth. Now, what are some of the advantages of a cashless economy? A cashless economy will help us to bring transactions under record. That means the flow of funds can be easily monitored by the government, so as we can be able to know the areas in the economy where tax is being evaded. Now, by this, that means the government is going to maximize on the amount of tax that it's going to collect in a particular year. That means it's going to have enough funds to invest or to develop the country on the basis of infrastructure and so on and so forth. Secondly, I'd like to talk about terrorism. You know, terrorism operations are aided if at all they have cash. Now, terrorists cannot store their cash in banks because they know that it can easily be traced back to them. So they tend to use hard cash. Now, by us accepting to use a cashless economy in our economy, in this country, or globally, we can be able to suppress their actions or operations because the access to that money is going to be a bit cumbersome for them. And you know, if insecurity is tackled well by the government, that means that it will encourage investments. It will also encourage tourists to come, which is a major foreign exchange earner in our country. Now, John F. Kennedy said once that change is a law of life. And those who look up to the past or the present will miss the future. My question is, are you ready to miss the future? Or who will miss the future? Thank you.
First proposer, you have 3 minutes for your opening statements.
As per the motion of today, we are being told that where there is no use of coins and cash, the economy will grow at a faster rate. But as for me, I want to say that we need cash in our country so that the industries and business in our country will move on faster. And I want to add more by saying this. Cash is the only means of payment which is legal gender. Thank you.
We'll now hear rebuttals, beginning with the proposers. You have 3 minutes.
It's a bit hot in here, and the funds are trying their best, but this motion is siding with the sun, I propose. To my opponents, here you have come and given us a 5-cent argument on a $10 motion that a cashless economy is most definitely the best stimulus to economic growth. I mean, you come here and tell me that cash payment is the only mode of payment that is legalized as tender? Are you trying to tell me that when any one of us here, our judges or our teachers, go out there to their ATM cards, they just go there to have fun, maybe to get a bit more of exposure outside the bank life of queuing and stuff? Are you telling me the people who swipe trade in something that is not legal? And if it is, you're trying to tell me that almost all business in Kenya, or all businesses that take place in any other state that uses cashless economy is illegal? Because from your argument, you tell us that cash is the only form accepted as legal tender. I mean, I would have accepted to adopt or maybe enroll to your school of thought had you been more convincing, although I'd still do that with a little bit of misgiving that a cashless economy is not the best stimulus for economic growth. I mean, this kind of arguments and these kinds of things are what poets and novelists and opponents like you do all the time, comparing ladies to lilies, veal to venison, beef to pork, and cashless economies to the Armageddon. Come on. I mean, you're the kind of people who tell us things like the snow is a white blanket after a winter storm, or what necessarily are you telling me that cash is disadvantageous? I mean, you claiming that cash is disadvantageous, I would compare you to snow and tell you that you try slipping under 6 inches of snow and I'll go back home with my policies and try slipping under half an inch of unpoetic and unfallacial blanket material, and let's see who will be warmer at the end of the day. And but I'll try. Before when I'm done, I hope you'll understand, even if it will be dimly, what I mean when I say you guys are phantasmagoric in your policy of cashless economies not being the best stimuli to economic growth. I mean, come on, guys. How am I supposed to convince you? What more can I do? Imagine, by the mere fact that you tossed a coin to know whether you were proposing or opposing, does that make you think that cash is king? Does that make it feel like cash is better than plastic? I mean, liquid money is king. And just look at these notebooks. People who are in the workshops, we are proudly sponsored by Safaricom and M-Pesa. Most of the dealings are done in liquid cash. I mean, come on, guys. I need you to film me.
Opposition, you have 3 minutes for a rebuttal.
Why do we say that a cash is the only tender? Because it is the only item that is accepted to measure the value of commodities. For example, if you want to know the value of your car, you must measure its commodity first. But for you to measure its commodity, you must use a cash.
Mamnataka iyo pesa shubidubidum nada shubidum nada M-Pesa shubidubidum nada shubidum nada M-Pesa.
Take part in the M Challenge by sending your short song, rap or poem about Safaricom M-Pesa on WhatsApp, and you could win 1,000 shillings in Safaricom airtime.
So the audience has posed questions to the two teams on stage. They will be responding. The proposers have been asked how cashless banking reduces terrorism, yet we have facilities such as offshore banking. And the opposition have been asked, is the government authorizing something illegal when it allows us to use cashless banking? Because they've said that legal tender is only hard cash. Proposal number 3, you have 3 minutes.
I'm Blair Obanda from the Maranda High School. I'll be proposing the motion that states a cashless economy is the best stimulus for economic growth. First of all, I'll fire away, keeping in mind the golden mean between saying not too much and not too little. Much has been put forward by my colleague debaters on the merits of a cashless economy and how it's the best stimulus for economic growth. I'd like to answer the question from Michael Odhiambo from St. Mary's School, Yala, on how offshore banking will reduce terrorism. The sending of money will be done electronically. The governments can come together and enforce legislation that will have security measures that will identify these terrorists and monitor their pedigree. I think I've adequately answered that. Since the Jubilee government came into place around 2 years ago, they have been trying to change the notion that Kenya is a very corrupt state because we are ranked highly in the world as very corrupt. I think it's an unfortunate case in our place. But the government has tried by all means to automate all its finances, automate all its systems in such a way that everything is done electronically. For this case, I'll refer to only 3 sections. The first one will be on the IFMIS, that's the Integrated Financial Management Information Systems. It's a bit long, I know, but it deals with the e-procurement of tenders such that the common mwananchi can get tenders easily, such that we don't have people paying kitu kidogo, I mean something small so that they can acquire and be able to pay for such tenders. If I can quote something from the local dailies, they say that it has a price control mechanism that sets the prices to a particular level that the government cannot obtain goods and commodities above the market prices. Secondly, I'll deal with the Kenya National Windows Open Transfer System that deals with the handling of imports and exports. We have always been told in the past of how the port of Mombasa was congested and how we have to reduce the paperwork and get the efficiency so that we can move goods faster from Mombasa to the hinterland. So I think the government has tried all its best and automated that system such that you can pay the bonds and whatever you're supposed to pay at the port electronically. And this will lead to economic growth because we are talking about that. We have no bureaucratic officials at the port, at offices where they'll ask for something small when you want to acquire, when you want to release your goods from the port. Then lastly, I think I'll talk about the e-citizen platform. When the Cabinet Secretary for National Treasury, Mr. Henry Rotich, when he was releasing the budget in Parliament, he talked about the Kenyan government almost getting 110 million shillings a day through the e-citizen platform. This is a platform where people can get their monies, can pay their revenues through that platform, such that licenses and all that things are processed online. For this day, I'd like to stop at that and rest my case.
Opposition, you have 3 minutes to respond to the audience as well.
Cash is the only means of payment that is accepted as a legal tender. It is used for measurement of values of commodities. Then we say that for commercial activities to take place and industries to grow, to develop, and the money supply to be in a large quantity, then we need cash. Then I would like to answer a question from that person. The government is not wrong, but cash is it is much in quantities, and thus it is used for measurement of values of commodities.
Closing submissions, beginning with the proposers, you have 1 minute.
Members of the audience, I do not know what to tell you because if I did not manage to convince you, if none of my teammates managed to convince you earlier, there's no way we can do it in a minute. But Kenya's gross development product stands at 6.5 trillion per year, and per capita, that's per person, it stands at 121,154 shillings. Our budget for the fiscal year 2015-2016 stands at 2.1 trillion, that's from Reuters and the local dailies, with 800 billion shillings from the external sources and 1.3 trillion from tax revenue. Let us note that power corrupts absolutely, and absolute power corrupts even more. If we keep on with cash economies, we'll still be ranked against the dollar, and you know where we're trading with the dollar. Let us always remember that in your tender and loving hands, the pride of a nation is entrusted. In your innocent hearts, the pride of a nation is enshrined. On your scholastic development, the salvation of this very nation is dependent. When you all get back to your schools, students that is, let us remember therefore, each and every one of us, that we carry the future of Kenya, and if we dare to dream, Africa, and even the whole world's dream in our hands. Think about us going cashless. Food for thought.
Opposition, you also have a minute for your final submission.
Cash should be there in our economy so that our country can realize enough money supply. And I am saying this because other means of payment, like check may be dishonored by the bank. And other means of payment, like bill, may waste a lot of time. Surely, cash is the only alternative. Thank you.
To Maranda School, I have very little to say to you, David, Caswell, and Blair. I think you're very keen listeners. The workshops to the trainings that we have done, and this was excellent. I mean, both the three of you demonstrated great teamwork, understood your roles, and you did what you were supposed to do. At some point, I wondered what Caswell is going to do to cross-examine, because, you know, from the previous, from Pauline, she didn't say much for you to cross-examine. But somehow, somewhere, you came over and cross-examined the whole time. I was even surprised, you know. So, but nonetheless, you know, when you cross-examine, you also need to hear some of your submissions that you would give us as well within your time. But excellent work all across the board. That being said, thank you and all the best.
For the Great Seed of Hope School, I think the challenge was understanding your role. And I believe that if you understood your roles a lot better, you'd have done much better than you have done this afternoon. Because in addition to just making one submission, you need to expound on your submissions, you need to give examples, there needs to be evidence of research, so that then you're convincing, you know, the audience and the panel of judges that they should actually go on your side. And that's what you do when you stand there, that the audience is in between, and even the panel of judges is in between. And your task for the 3 minutes that you're on stage is to convince us that we should actually be on your side of the motion. And so you had strong points, but just one. And the next person comes and it's just one, and the other person comes and it's just one. So you can imagine if there was teamwork and you utilized your time properly, you'd have done much better. But having said that, I must commend you for, you know, at least coming up and, you know, making the submissions that you made. And next time, you know, there's always room for improvement. And that's the greatest room, you know, so utilize it better. And I'm sure that, you know, next year you'll do a great job in making your submissions.
The Great Seed of Hope, the judges awarded you 40%. Please give them a round of applause. Maranda High School, the judges saw it fit to award you 74%. You are our winners for the debate.
Congratulations to the three musketeers of Maranda High, and all the best to the Great Seed of Hope. We'd also like to thank you, our audience, for tuning into the Great Debaters Contest. Remember to follow us on Twitter @GreatDebatersEA. And of course, our gratitude goes out to Safaricom M-Pesa and to KBC Channel 1. I have been your host, Mariam Bishar.
And I am Austin Yumbok. Catch you next time.
The Great Debaters Contest was brought to you by Safaricom M-Pesa.